think the reason that talked to me is just because the premise is so incredible.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
premise
exactly,
is very
exactly.
unique and original. I think, and that just goes to show sometimes how powerful the idea
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
It's freaking wild.
Mel Gibson, première.
Killed a fly.
For millions of fans, Mad Max is a hero. Which are yours? Your heroes.
My heroes. My heroes? Gee. Geez, everyone's got a hero. My father.
Is he an artist?
Is he an artist? In a way, yes, he writes. Do you write?
Do you think that actors have some responsibility? I mean, by the image they give of humanity. You understand what I mean?
Yes, responsibility to portray humanity
Right.
in a certain way. In what way?
I don't know, but if you see a Mad Max, for instance, as a
yes.
hero, this an image of the 20th century.
Ah.
And
I'm sort of running out of dialogue here. In fact, what a funny question. I don't know how to answer that. I don't think I can. I think it's a silly question. I'm sorry.
no. Did you find some cynism by them, or opportunity, or impulse to become themselves famous, to put themselves on the first stage, on the first place?
What?
Among the reporters, no?
I'm sorry. I can't understand that. Did I find an impulse? I'm sorry.
Oui. Mel Gibson, deuxième.
And you know already what you will be acting in the first time soon. You have some projects.
I'm working on a film now. In fact, I've had a few days break. I just came over from London, and it's the story of the Bounty and the mutiny. It's not a remake. It's a fresh look at it.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about Mel Gibson.
Well, what did you think of that clip?
Yeah, it's super fascinating. Seeing
Yeah.
his charisma. So young. It's brilliant. I mean, even though it's kind of like, it's so funny because the interview itself, we're talking about the interview at Cannes, 1984 or 3 or something. And he's just kind of, you can just see that he's dripping with charisma from the beginning. I mean, from being so young, even with a terribly unsuccessful interview because he just can't understand the dude.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you can tell this guy he's very interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the way he talks is so like proper and sophisticated, and it's funny because it's like he's continuing to act when he's just doing an interview, and no matter what camera's on, he's performing, and that's what I love. That's what I would love to see in an actor. As a director, like that's what I want. That's what would attract me, is someone who is themselves, but themselves to such a high degree. It's amazing and it's cool to see it in just a conversation, because obviously the roles he's played throughout the years are all over the place in their dynamics and their performances. But just seeing him talk like that, in a quote unquote normal conversation is amazing. You don't see the actor that the actress that like reminds me of that is Jennifer Lawrence when she was first coming out.
Yeah.
Because she had so much charisma and she's beautiful, of course, but she was so funny and she was just so attractive and so like herself. It was really cool it was just attractive to see that in interviews and stuff.
I've always wondered, what is charisma? What is it? And what does it take to, because I do believe it can be nurtured, it can be crafted. I mean, we see people when they were younger, not everyone has that kind of charisma when they were younger. And it's strange, sometimes people have more charisma when they're younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously it has to do with some type of self-confidence, but I do believe in that competence builds confidence. I think that's true to an extent, but if you look at like Macaulay Culkin, for example, he has incredible charisma when he's very young.
Sure, yeah.
And he's oozing with this kind of interesting enthusiasm of life.
Right.
But as he's older, I definitely feel like he has a certain type of charisma. We really haven't seen much of him at all. But then you look at Daniel Radcliffe, and he's kind of kept this charisma, and it's spurring, and now he's kind of turning into this. Have you seen his newest role where he's like this? He's super shredded.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it like in a funny way?
Yeah, it's funny, but he's also like, people are saying that he should be the next Wolverine because he's so similar to Hugh Jackman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with his style, with his chest hair, it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. I think it has to do with a couple different things, but really I think it's like the perfect storm of someone's journey is what makes it most fascinating to watch, is like where charisma really shines out from people, because like Morgan Freeman, for example, there's interviews with him where he's like, so charismatic. I would say, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, there was a famous clip of him talking about racism.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the most charismatic, I feel like, moments in his life, or just where he exuded that kind of energy and charisma. And he was an older gentleman. So, I think like the age and like the time, it has to do with, so like all the different elements of one's life and their like, their career, their success, their happiness in life. It's like all that thing put together makes someone, charismatic, and, you enjoy being around them. 'Cause I feel like it's,
but it's also, I also think it's a natural proclivity to understanding human communication as well. Because the way he talks, his tonality, his inflection, I mean, obviously it's natural. I don't know if he's even thinking about it. He's not thinking about it. I mean, I doubt it. You don't really hear many filler words. You don't really hear any ums or ahs. I was watching this amazing video yesterday, and it was incredible because it was how I expanded my communication or got better with communication or something. And this guy, within 2 months, that channel has popped off from like 400 subscribers to 60,000 subscribers just from that one video. And I think it was because he was so direct and he was so high value with his. It just was an amazing piece of information, because basically he diluted it down to just two things. Basically, one was repetition, learning new words, and just doing the repetition of them, and then 2, expanding your lexicon. And there's 2 levels of your lexicon. There's the surface level lexicon where we grab things easily and automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone asks you, "How was your day?" It was great, or it was bad. It's surface level.
Yeah.
You could say, and that's the other thing he was saying. What you could also do is stop, think about what you're going to say and try to grab and try to breathe deep into the deeper lexicon. So you can grab words that you don't normally use and try to bring them to the surface. So instead of saying good, maybe say something like, my day was tremendous, absolutely tremendous, you know? And also stop saying filler words like, you know? But that all takes time. It takes repetition.
Yeah.
But I think that mixed with the tonality and yes, and also a perfect storm. It's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Well, yeah, going back to Mel Gibson, because like I guess my point was just that someone so charismatic like that is just very deeply themselves. They've learned who they are, and they can emit it out to other people, and that's attractive.
Yeah.
But like what you were saying with Mel Gibson, what's so appealing about that interview is how well spoken he is. He's like his vocabulary and like the way he says things is kind of Shakespearean.
Yes.
And it's so attractive to hear someone talk like that. You're like, wow.
Right.
Language can sound like that. Like,
but it's also he's conviction. He has conviction in what he says, and it there's no second guessing for him. He means what he says.
Yeah.
And he's not being pompous in what he says. That's the other thing is sometimes you can be, maybe some people I think have this fear of grabbing from the deeper lexicon, fear of looking pompous or something or pretentious, which can happen.
Yeah, of course. If you don't know what it means, you're going to sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, you need to also try. You need to also fail. Be willing to look pretentious as well. I think. I mean, so that you can actually try to breathe deeper in your, in the lexicon, in a deeper lexicon, so you can grab from the depths of the ocean of your words that you have, that everyone has, and also reading literature, and I need to do better at that. It's like reading literature, reading different things that will actually like bring out that deeper lexicon.
Yeah, yeah, and then working it out is the tough part for sure, but reading those things, exposing yourself to that kind of language, definitely. I agree. I think is a great start. And I mean, it could be difficult. I mean, it could be super difficult with certain authors that are really revered and, perhaps something that should be read. But really, I think one of the most difficult parts, especially for Americans, is reading people from, either like England or like Russian literature, like, Tolstoy, Dickens and stuff like that, and just getting the language barrier, right? Even older American writings like
Walt Whitman.
Mark Twain. Yeah, Walt Whitman. Yeah, for sure. Walt Whitman, so complicated. Mark Twain. But Mark Twain's easier than others, I'd say, just because he's American. But even that, you have to get over that barrier of how they spoke, how you speak. You have to work through it. You're not just gonna like dive into it like modern books.
Right.
There has to be a learning.
Absolutely. What do you think makes Mel Gibson such an incredible director?
What makes him incredible as a director, I think it's tough to say on the production side, because I don't know how he does that. I don't know. I really don't know much about how he accomplishes it, but he does that extremely well. Everything's so extremely tasteful on the production side. However, on the acting side, he's a wonderful actor. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, and he's an underrated actor. But he has such a great understanding of acting. He knows what to give actors. That's why I want to start taking acting classes. I need to start taking acting classes so I can relate to that mind more as a director. And him having that experience in the theater and in film makes it tremendous, makes his performance amazing. But I'm interested in the production side too, because he has so much fire. I think the acting kind of speaks for itself. Like that makes sense. But then why the production? Why is that so good? I mean, because from his directorial debut, which I haven't seen, but I've seen clips from it, even that looks amazing. I mean, it looks really good.
Do you know what the name of it is?
I'd have to look it up. I think it's a father and son type of story. I'll have to look up exactly what it is, but it's slightly lower budget, but it's looks great. Yeah, and I think it was pretty critically acclaimed when it came out.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think makes him so good of a director?
I think it's kind of like the Tom Cruise effect, where he obviously started off as a actor, worked his way up, and he was able to sit and understand. Like, he could hang out. That's a great thing, especially I noticed about sets, about working on bigger sets, is that if the actor is a star actor, especially on his level, especially when he gets to his level, he can go anywhere. He can sit in with producers most of the time. He can kind of go into any door he wants and just sit and learn. And I think what he did is he just collected a team over time, because when he was on his rise, it would be stupid not to be. If Mel came to you and was like, hey, I want you to work as my DP. I mean, of course he's going to say yes. So he has kind of like the pick of the litter, but he also knows who will work well together. So I think he collected, and Tom is known to do this as well. He collected pieces of the puzzle, but he was a fly on the wall on some of the greatest minds in cinema throughout his tenure. And so when it came time to do his thing, he already knew what he needed to. He had probably collected the team by that point. He knew the writers that he wanted, and he also knew how to run a production, because he was probably friends with multiple directors, seen multiple directors, had lunch with multiple directors, and he was he networked multiple, and he talked with them. It's like he knew what to do and what they had to do, and especially being on set, you see what great directors do and how they actually and what they actually do. And going into the producers' meetings, you also see what takes place and what really needs to go down behind the scenes.
Do you think he's a better actor or a better director?
That is really hard. I think he's a better director. As crazy as that is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really just have to look at Braveheart, where he directed and starred in it. That's kind of.
I don't know if that helps any. He was so good in Braveheart.
He was so good.
Yeah, he was so good.
I don't know.
Isn't that tough?
That is very difficult, but because I'm trying to think of things he did outside of Braveheart that touch the high, other than Passion of the Christ, but he didn't star in it. So, but he directed it.
Right.
And Passion of the Christ is, whether you're religious or not, it's one of the greatest pieces of cinema to have ever existed. To have ever existed, it's beyond. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah, one of the most powerful. I mean, probably in the top 10 most powerful. Has to be.
Yeah, most powerful and impactful, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the That's the other thing. If you don't believe cinema can be powerful and impactful, you don't know cinema. Because, when that came out, and I believe it had so many things going against it. It had so many things. But when that came out, it made so much money, and I think it was like it converted a ton of people over to Christianity.
Oh, it made an insane amount of money, and he didn't get distribution for that film.
He didn't get distribution?
No, nobody would touch that film.
Nobody.
Probably nobody would touch it with the deal he would want. Right? That's probably what it was. But
Yeah, because I'm like, if we got distribution, I'm sure. Well, but
No,
that was a different
no.
time.
It was a different time, and then I think it was more of like
Because that's just cable and theater back then, because there was no streaming services.
right. But I think I don't remember exactly what I read, but I believe it got pulled or something. Regardless, he had to go to the churches. He had to go to the churches to rustle up the word of the film and pull in favors and make connections with churches to get that film out.
Man,
That's how it got marketed. It wasn't traditionally marketed. I don't know if there was a big trailer release. Of course they had a trailer, but I don't know if there was like a big, release on TV and stuff. I don't know if he got that sort of marketing secured.
it's crazy. Well, why would it not?
It's also fairly low budget. I think it was like, I feel like looking it up, but I feel like it was around 10 to 15 million.
I thought it sold 12 million.
Yeah, something like that. But then in theaters, because of his work with, because he worked with smaller churches. He worked with tons of different networks to spread that word of the film, and they spread it. And so when it came out in theaters, it was crazy. It was crazy.
30 million. Was the
30
budget.
is what it was made for.
Yep.
Did you see what it did in the box office?
Let's see.
Because I thought it was kind of 10 times that in the box office. I mean, I remember every theater was playing that. And on Sunday, I remember we went to church and then we saw Passion of the Christ. And that was insane. That was the most wild theater experience I've ever had.
Oh, man. I don't even remember. It's 612 million.
612 million?
Yeah.
Oh,
Back then.
God.
Back then, that's
so
basically
crazy.
1 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
or more. I don't know.
Yeah. That's huge, man. How insane is that?
That's crazy.
He did it. He didn't. That was him. That was Mel Gibson. I mean, Marvel movies and all this stuff, they have teams behind them. They have buildings, skyrise full of people that dedicate themselves to spreading that movie.
Yep.
That was freaking Mel Gibson and probably a small team
Oh,
that
my
made that
gosh.
happen.
I mean, that just goes to show you, and that kind of reminds me, it goes to show you what can be achieved with just a small group of people with that have a very focused mission, mindset, and ambition, and never give up. Because I need to read more of it, but I remember with interviews that they had so many hangups to get it out and to just get it funded, and to just overall, it was sounded like a shit show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the production, even the production faced just an incredible amount of problems. I mean, there was, lightning bolts that hit Jim Caviezel, which is, what is that? I don't know what that is. That's just crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Supposedly he nearly died twice and broke his shoulder. I remember watching an interview with him, and he broke his shoulder, and he was talking about it he was saying he was, how he spoke with God, and he was requesting to feel Jesus' pain. This is Jim Caviezel talking about it. And it's just wild to hear him talk about this. And he broke his shoulder. He was getting hypothermia. Or he dislocated his shoulder twice or something. I don't know if he broke his shoulder, but he dislocated his shoulder twice out of socket while he was carrying the cross. Cuts, bruises, infection, pneumonia. I mean, and I think I remember him talking about it at one point, that he was on the cross and he was experiencing severe hypothermia, severe and almost heart problems. Something was happening with because of pneumonia as well. And they had the doctor on set, and they the medic on set, and the medic was like, "Listen, if we don't give him a rest, or look, he could die. He needs to rest." And Mel with his cigarette, and then I think he says something like, "Well, how about it, Jim?" And Jim told him, "No, keep going." I forgot. He said something so Jim Caviezel.
Mm-hmm.
He said something like, I don't know if he said, he definitely told him to keep going, but I think in his mind he said that if I die, then I'm ready. Basically, he was ready to die on a shoot, on a production shoot.
Yeah.
That's freaking ridiculous, man. Give the man a break, but he really wanted to, and whether you were like, this is just stupid as hell, like, why would you go that far? Whether you're on that side or where you understand on production, because if you've never been in production, it's something else, man.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to commit to the shot. I would argue that's a lot. That's like maybe a little too far.
Yeah.
When you're putting your star actor in death grips, but that does happen 100%. It happens it does happen. The film it's not always safe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take a lot of risk a lot of time, and sometimes that risk involves people's lives. And that is just the name of the game. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong. Sometimes it is wrong, but sometimes it's not wrong.
Well,
sometimes it's what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a good point, because going back to why Mel Gibson's such a great director, it's a trickle-down effect from the director to everyone else of what are you willing to sacrifice? How hard are you willing to work? What they're looking to the leader. And Mel Gibson, he's kind of like saying that to Jim in a sort of way because he knows he would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mel's like, if I were you, it wouldn't even be a question. That's how, and it's probably true because he's a fucking psychopath.
He is kind of a psychopath.
He's a monster. And that's why he's such a great director, because he's this harnessed monstrosity, harnessed energy of a man. And it's easy to look up to someone like that. It makes him a fantastic director.
It does. I mean, he's a madman. He's literally Mad Max. And then it's unbelievable. And to think that Jim he was sacrificing his career in for that film, and people have asked him and talked to him about it, and you can see in his face that he never regrets it. He's also become a hardened Christian. I mean, hardcore. As a lot of people know with the movie that just came out, but you got to admire his commitment. I mean, to the role.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just unreal. Unreal.
Yeah, it's impressive. And one thing I was going to kind of bridge the gap between was something else I saw. Speaking of, impact of directors who sort of have done other things. I was watching the trailer to The Card Counter. Have you seen that? Card Counter?
Is that with Oscar Isaac?
Yeah, that one. Did you see that?
No.
So I didn't want to see it either. After I saw the trailer, I saw who was in it. I saw what it was about.
Yeah.
And I was super excited. And I saw who freaking wrote it.
Who wrote it?
It's the writer of Taxi Driver.
Oh my God. Well.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And he hasn't written anything for a while, I believe. And so I saw, I saw a lot of buzz about the script, and it's presented by Scorsese. So he's definitely had a part of it. And but okay, the problem is I don't know how much directing that gentleman's done. I know he's he's a writer, and he's a phenomenal writer. Here, let me see if I can bring up his some of his stuff, because he's one of the best. And I should get his name too. Yeah, Paul Schrader. Regardless, he's known as primarily a writer, right? Taxi Driver, he wrote. Rolling Thunder is another one he wrote. Raging Bull, he wrote.
Ridiculous.
Last Temptation of Christ, he wrote. Also, a movie not talked about enough in the in the biblical realm, but he's directed some that maybe not so good.
Really?
Yeah, just
Man, that's terrible.
yeah, and so the card counter comes out,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, reunion
Mhm,
of
mhm.
Scorsese and Paul Schrader,
Right.
amazing, but he's directing it,
Okay.
and it's just not there, man.
Oh, man.
It is just not there.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
It's
Well, we can't.
It's another
say.
movie I prematurely judged. But listen, dude, I was dead right about Barbie from last one,
Oh man.
and this one, I'm telling you, dude. Like, I'm just looking at it, and I'm just looking at the movie and the scenes that are in there and what he's chosen, and I'm like, no way, man. The story sounds cool. It does, but the way they deliver these lines, it sounds like it's being done by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Honestly, sounds
Oscar Isaac, our boy.
that's another thing. Like, Oscar Isaac is such a phenomenal actor, and he's so good.
Yeah.
But there's few actors who need no direction. I mean, every actor needs direction. But
I don't know.
I'm thinking of like a Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
He I mean, look at Dune. He's amazing, while Timothée Chalamet, not so great.
Ooh.
But
Hot take.
Oscar Isaac, you look at him in a, Drive, unbelievable,
He's unbelievable.
and
Even Star Wars stuff.
Star Wars,
It's
really
fantastic.
good, despite them not being
Great movies.
great movies.
Yeah.
He's very good, right? So his need for direction isn't as much as others. But in this movie, he doesn't even look that good. He doesn't. It doesn't even look that attractive. And some of his lines, he does not get away with them.
Jeez.
Well,
we'll see. Let's take a look at it before we really dive in.
but dude,
Look what they've
no,
done
what
to our
I'm saying
boy.
is, if I'm not even interested after the trailer, like, how's the movie gonna be good? I mean, like,
I'm
I'm
there's
not even that
times where the
interested.
trailer is, I mean, that's crazy too, because
Maybe,
you're
yeah.
into poker. You love Oscar Isaac. You love the writer. So I'm like,
dude, I want to love it. I knew it was like, it was
Oh,
kind
man.
of panned.
well,
I didn't care. I didn't care.
give it a shot then. I mean, give it a shot.
I'll watch a bit. I mean, yeah, I'll watch a bit, man.
Yeah,
but,
watch a bit.
But
Support your boys.
there are freaking stars. I don't have to support them. But there's only so much from the trailer. I like, if the trailer, it does a good amount. And yeah, there's shitty trailers and all.
Right, they're shitty trailers.
But I didn't see much redeeming, like, from any of the shots. And there has to be some redeeming things, like with the recent film we watched, the horror. What was that one? We should talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. Wait, Megan?
No, not Megan.
Did we talk about Megan last time?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
No, the
That's right, we did.
the
actually.
hand.
Oh, talk to me.
Talk to
Oh
me.
my gosh. Oh, I
Yeah.
love Talk to Me.
See, I wasn't taken by the trailer. Totally.
I was.
I was on the fence. I saw it and I was like, okay, it could be good, it could be bad. I mean, but yeah. And like, I'm not a horror buff necessarily. I like horror movies, but it's not
Yeah.
totally my thing.
Right.
But it turns out crazy movie.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, very, very good, man.
Shout out to the boys. Raka. They're definitely They're definitely like our spirit animals these days. I mean, can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
They start off on YouTube and then they freaking put out a banger-rang like that. My gosh. So inspirational. So inspirational, man.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Those guys, and you look at their YouTube, dude, those guys have been going hard for 10 years, man, before they even put out a feature.
Did you look into that?
Yes, I did.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wanted to look into that. So what is their YouTube history in terms of their content like?
They have a tremendous YouTube history.
What was it like though?
I mean, it's a mixture of like prank and like a mixture of like funny. It's mostly just funny shit and funny, like Australian madness,
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, so they have all this different kind of like material, and it spans between like comedy bits, shorts, and vlog style, and they're funny people themselves. They're super
Yeah.
charismatic guys.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, well, and they've always kind of done horror aspect things, but it's been based around like pranks or skits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like Talk to Me is a little out of left field because their material doesn't really ever look like that.
Yeah.
It's very YouTube-y.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I kind of.
So shout out to the DP. Goddamn.
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
Yeah.
The DP is, I mean, he's hot. He's so hot right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was very well done. Yeah, it was very well done. There was a lot of choices I didn't agree with from the DB standpoint, but by and large, it was very well done.
Oh, it was so good. I loved it, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Evil Dead Rising. It was a fantastic movie. Yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Okay.
I was wanting y'all to watch that.
Yeah.
That was also a really dope movie.
Really?
Yes, it was fantastic.
Where was it standing next to Talk to Me?
Compared to what?
Just
Like
in
how?
overall quality of a movie.
I feel like they're very similar.
Really?
Yeah, I just feel like, honestly, I feel like the A24 touch is a thing. I think they have a
Are
magic.
they both A24?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
they have more hype around them because it's obviously not A24, but A24 a little bit kind of, they sprinkle a little magic on it sometimes.
Yeah.
With their marketing, and if people see it's an A24 movie, then it's automatically usually going to be a banger of some type.
Yeah.
It's going to be unique of some kind, but
Right.
yeah, I feel like you would probably love the DP more on Evil Dead. It seemed
I think so too.
way more tight, and
Yeah.
the color choices, the lighting, the framing,
Yeah.
it was fantastic. But then
Yeah.
Talk to Me was also fairly low budget as well, and they made a lot of magic out of very little.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's what it is for me.
I think also, just one last thing, I think the reason that Talk to Me is just because the premise is so incredible.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
premise
exactly.
is very unique and original. I think, and that just goes to show sometimes how powerful the idea
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking wild.
Yeah. Story and script.
The script is so crucial, so
Mm-hmm.
important. And if you look at Evil Dead Rising, it's kind of, you've seen a lot of it before. And you really have.
Yeah.
You have seen a lot of it before in many different ways.
That's what kind of, turned me off about that is, I love the lore. I love the world building. And to me, it was kind of a ghoul in a house.
It is, but it was so well done. I mean, it was top tier. It was exciting. They cut the pieces and put them together in such a great way. It's very exhilarating. Lots of adventure. I loved it. I would watch it again, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, but Talk to Me does have an incredibly original premise that obviously, you can. It's a bit of a darling at this point.
Right. Yeah, it's fantastic. I was gonna say what does it for me with that film is the handheld. That's really what I kind of Yeah, it just bores me.
Want to talk to me?
Yeah, with that perspective, yeah, or just my with my perspective, watching a film, that kind of stuff. Like it's like we talked about. It's just I think it's very very difficult
Mm.
to properly compose a handheld shot.
Yeah.
I think it's very very difficult, and you have to
Hardcore.
do very special things. Because for a moment there, it had its time in the sun with certain movies that used it. And so, and I think for a little while, I'm trying to think of an example of that. For a little while,
Like Blair Witch Project.
no.
That's kind of its different thing.
Yeah, that's totally different. I mean, like a movie from like maybe 10 years ago or something that overly used handheld like just a bit. And then we were like, okay, well that now it's starting to look amateur.
Mm.
And that's just the thought in my head now is with the handheld stuff, in order to do it really well, it has to be so well composed.
Mhm.
And you really have to pay attention to what the movement is really doing. Because like I saw Pig, and that's a great movie, and it's impressive with how they're doing it. It's true, because they're shooting at like 1.4, like 1. I don't know what they're shooting at, but the depth of field is so shallow, and it's handheld stuff. It's a good amount of handheld stuff,
Mhm.
and the focus. So the focus is kind of first I see the person handling the focus had to have been losing their mind.
I bet.
during that shoot,
Gosh.
but yeah, it's impressive and all. But again, it's the same thing. It doesn't leave an impression, right? The Shining, you can think of one shot. What do you think of? You think of the twins, right? With The Shining.
I think of the typewriter. Of him typing at the
Yeah.
typewriter.
Yeah, you think of things.
Yeah.
You think of shots.
Right.
Yeah, with those movies, it's hard to think of things, right? Nothing's
with what movie?
with a talk to me with a well, I'm not necessarily, but it's harder because the compositions aren't as solid. They're not as composed when you have something so handheld heavy. You know what I mean? It doesn't allow for these elaborately constructed shots.
It's
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
Like a Jaws. You think of you got to compose that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not just going to put it in your hands and get creative in the moment.
Well, what about It's Winning Time? I want to talk about that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's handheld,
Right.
but on rollerblades.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Super
Cool.
impressive and
Wow.
innovative.
So cool.
Yeah. For that guy to come up with.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the thing, like, it's not that we don't want to use innovations. We just don't want to overuse innovation. Like I was talking to Max about it, and I was telling him about this, and Max, he's a young dude, but
Mhm.
he's an old school film guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever take things like off the dolly. He wants the dolly,
Sure.
And so I was telling him about Winning Time, and we both thought of the same thing. You're like, okay, that's really cool, but let me see the static shot, the shot that's supposed to be static. So like, I was telling him, like, that's awesome that they're doing that on the court. Just don't do it when they're at the bar after and they're talking to each other.
Right.
Just don't do it then, because like all of a sudden you're gonna see this amazing shot where he's on the court, and it is awesome. It's really cool to look
incredible.
at.
Wow. It's the coolest shit.
But then, okay, they go after the bar, or they're in the locker room. Don't show them skating. Don't get the camera skating through the locker room. Just don't do that. If you
Right.
don't do that, then we're good. Then it's really cool, and that's awesome. Just go back to normal filmmaking. It's a spice. We're making a soup, and you found a new spice. That's awesome. That's really cool. And like, I'm sure it tastes really cool in your soup,
Delicious.
but it's a spice. shake it in, and then put everything else in. Don't just have it overspiced and tasting insane and nasty,
Yeah. But there's also another thing too. So, because I love Suits, right? I think Suits is such a great show. The writing is so fantastic. But if you go too far the other way, where it's super traditional, like Suits, in many ways, Suits is very. I mean, it's very modern style TV show. But I think there was a couple seasons there where, I mean, the beats were so repetitive. It's like you could tell, like every scene turned into a cliffhanger,
Yeah.
And it's like every scene, and you can it starts to become comical because I'm like, I already know how the scene's going to end because and I get it because what they want to do is they want to leave a hook for every scene for you to keep watching and be addicted. And
Right.
and they do an amazing job. Obviously, Suits is incredible. Don't get me wrong here, but me being a filmmaker, I'm like, I can't ignore how freaking repetitive it is. The writing, the static shots.
Yeah.
And it's always like, it's like every scene just ends with I thought you were going to be my, I thought you were going to be my partner here.
Yeah.
And instead you're not. And then it's just a pan to him like, and then she's like, and she just leaves the room.
Yeah.
And then it's another scene, and then it just ends. And maybe it's like his name's Lewis. He's one of my favorite characters. He's such a Weasley guy. No pun intended. I'm not Weasley, but he is a Weasley guy. But he does. You kind of he grows on you with it. He grows on you as the show goes along. But then same with him. It's like like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I really hope that, he didn't say I really hope, but I don't know what to do. The firm's failing. And then they always end with like a cliffhanger. And then I got it. I think I know what to do. And then it's like, ooh. And it's like every scene is that same thing. It's like, it's literally like clockwork. It's like clockwork. And I'm like, dude, guys, come on. Like, this is a little too much here. I mean,
well, dude, and sorry, this was another thing I was talking with Max about too. Max is our gaffer, handles all the lighting on our films, but it's the art of suspense. That's what it is gripping you into that story and weaving you through the suspense, checkpointing properly each plot point.
Right.
Because I was talking about an example of one that did it poorly, that just revealed sort of everything at the end. I forgot which example it was, but the best example, a great example, is Hitchcock. All of his movies, it's all suspense. It is the art of suspense that grips you in these films, regardless of horror, drama, what have you. There's these moments of suspense where you're just so locked in, and that's why you can watch. What reason would we have to watch these old movies, having progressed so much? Is because story is so complex, and the art of it doesn't change. And Hitchcock did it so well. I was watching Notorious, and it's a film about it's kind of complicated because it's rooted in history, but it's about the daughter of a Nazi spy who is imprisoned. He might have been taken care of by the government, but she's the daughter, and so she loves America, and she wants to, do her duty, and so she counter spies on her Nazi friends for the government, and so it's a political movie. It's a romance. Cary Grant's in it, and he's just fantastic leading man. And it's Ingrid Bergman. So
Wow.
just beautiful and just unbelievable actress. Just, oh my God, amazing. And the suspense they have in these moments. It's just how.
What's the name of the
how do
movie?
you do it? Notorious.
Notorious.
I think I'm getting that right.
What age? I mean, what year was it released?
Yeah, I think it was the 50s. Am I thinking of the right movie? Yeah, 1946. And it's so fascinating because there's times where one moment comes to mind where they're at a party and she is going into the wine cellar. She's like sneaking into it, and there's just back and forth shots of like the like is he gonna come find her out? Are they gonna get caught? Is this whole thing gonna blow up? And it's just how do you do that? How do you make, like, I was on the edge of my seat for this. Are they gonna get caught?
Huh.
And it's just surreal. It's like, how do you make me do that?
It's incredible, man.
It's just amazing that they can make you do this, make you feel this way in this film that's so far removed from like my daily life, but I have to know what's going to happen.
I'm when you look back at classic cinemas, sometimes you need to just give it up and just be like, how did they do this? I mean, it's so incredible in the golden age of cinema. I mean, there's so many great films, classics of like 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, it's incredible. One thing I did want to note is that we got distribution for our film. I don't think we said that on the last one. The last podcast.
I don't think we had it at that time.
Yeah, I don't think we had it, but we did get distribution for the film. And that is super exciting because I looked up a stat and it was of all the films, and don't get me wrong, there's some films that
Don't deserve it.
Huh?
Don't deserve it.
That don't deserve distribution, but they have distribution. But even then, you have to realize, like, look, there are films that are funded that never see the light of day. And the amount of films that ranges around 2% of all funded films. So, take that with what you will. But I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what we achieved. And it's with Vision Films, a great company. And we're excited to see, what happens with it. And it's going to be distributed dang near everywhere. So it's a great start to been able to do it for like such a micro budget, and to get it shot, produced, edited in 1 year I think is a great, and distributed in 1 year, I think is a great accomplishment. I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing that it's the full journey from conception to planning, shooting, editing, and then having people watch it, see it in theaters was awesome. And now knowing it'll be put out everywhere for people to watch in their homes. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's exactly what you want, but now having it materialize, it's exciting to know that there's a future for that film and the mission that's associated with that film, and that we can continue to push it. People can continue to, absorb it, learn, hopefully, from it, with the words that are spoken from those heroes in the film, and then continue to change things. And yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's fantastic. It's also funny that when we were sitting there, nobody really cared about how we made the film, because after we shot, we had like a conference, and we had a theatrical release or a private screening. After the screening, we had Q&A with some, with Mark, our executive producer, us, and then we had Michael Gomez, and we had the rest of the boys. there. Wade, freaking incredible. Jackie as well. I think that's about it. And we were. It was great because everyone was very focused on the mission, but nobody really cared about how we made the film. Nobody really asked us any of those questions. Nobody really asked us questions.
Right.
But that's okay, because the most important thing, especially as it being a documentary, is that the mission gets out, to help with men's mental health in general, and preventing veteran suicide, and of course preventing suicide in general. I think those are fantastic topics. So if that means that nobody asks us a question about why we chose this lens over that lens, and that's fine. I can live with that.
Yeah. It's not probably not the crowd for it.
No.
At festivals, I'm sure we'll get more of those questions, but in that group of individuals, they're focused on the mission, which should be what most are focused on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's cool. I'm
Yeah.
stoked that we were able to get distribution. I think that's just the coolest shit, man. I'm very proud of us for that. So, one thing that we did, I don't think we talked about at all last time that we said we were going to talk about, was a bicycle thief.
I thought we talked about that. I thought we did talk about that.
Oh, did we?
I thought we did. I thought that was one of the things. Is such a crazy thing, but it's here. Is the Snow White not being white? All the Disney business coming out, the live action Disney stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a big reason, I think. So here's the thing, because I think a lot of people are just kind of, they're like, why is Disney doing this? Why are they making these decisions? And
Yeah.
even if they are pandering to a group,
Mm-hmm.
why do it this way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the real reason is that they don't really care if it makes money or not. Deep down, the reason they're making these movies,
Mm-hmm.
they're not making them to make money, even though of course they're using everything in their power to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's more of like a political move,
Sure.
but it's more than anything, it's because I think they're refreshing their patent rights, because Snow White is almost 100 years old, and it's
They
coming
don't want
to,
it to become
it's
public domain.
public domain. So right
Yeah.
now they're refreshing everything with live action,
Mm-hmm.
because they know that they can't refresh it cartoon style, because Snow White is immaculate. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
What are you gonna do cartoon wise? It doesn't make sense. You can try
Yeah.
CGI,
Yeah.
Pixar style, which honestly probably wouldn't be a bad idea. It'd probably be better than live action. But to them, they're probably like, hey, we'll do live action. It's easier. We can get it done quicker. Because that's the other thing, is probably they probably are going to do Pixar versions at some point. They just are like, why? Like, it's cheaper to do live action, probably, and it's faster, and or whatever. But I don't really know. Maybe it's I don't know. I mean, that's so high level that who freaking really knows other than them. But they're just refreshing basically the copyright laws.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, that
so
makes
it's
sense.
another 100 years that people can't use these movies or use these stories in other movies, because it's becoming public domain.
That makes sense. Yeah, totally makes sense. Why they would do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to lose the patent. Sure.
Or copyright law. I'm not sure if it's one or the other, but
Yeah, and if they don't make the best movie in the in the meantime, then okay, well, at least accomplished one of the goals, which is to refresh the patent.
and that's the main goal. That's really
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
So so valuable.
it's insanely valuable.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna like do it before anyone else does. We're gonna do it timed. That's why all of them are coming out all of a sudden, like Beauty and the Beast and Snow White. It's like they're all coming out
Yeah.
in time. to refresh the law.
Yeah, which isn't that crazy that it's patented anyways? Because they're like folk tales.
I know. I don't
And
know how that really
fables.
works.
Yeah, because in Cinderella's, the origin is what is Japanese
Is it really?
Cinderella? The origin?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. It's either Japanese or Chinese. I don't remember the distinction, but it is Asian for sure.
Hmm.
The original story was Asian.
Jeez.
Yeah. So how do they patent that? Because they got that from them. How do they have precedence?
I don't think it probably wasn't called Cinderella. And it was probably like slightly different in many ways, and they just kind of.
Yeah, I guess that's true because you could do Cinderella, but name her something different, right?
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I guess that's fair.
You could. Yeah, you definitely could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
And that I don't understand because like the actress for Snow White. I mean, here's the thing. Oh yeah, and here's the thing. This all ties together. You also look at Cowboy because Snow White. It's probably gonna be a horrible movie. It's just gonna be horrible. I'm calling it out right now. It's probably just gonna be because with how much division the main actress is already making, and how many assumptions and how she's acting like she's like part of the writing room and she, and talking so bad about the prince or not the prince. Was it a prince in Snow White? Basically, the male.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was a prince, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
How he saves her and all this, but in this one, he doesn't save her. He's just there, and it's like, what the heck, man? Like, this is so lame. I mean,
you know who helped with the concept?
Who?
Greta Gerwig.
Oh, great. Man, it's so strange because she didn't seem that. I don't know.
I know.
She seems so much more nuanced than this. But,
I know.
But
I don't know. Strange. But yeah, I thought that was weird, and I don't know. At least in terms of optics, with the actress they chose, why? I mean, you think of Snow White, you think of just someone regal looking,
Yeah.
I mean, she just looks like a chill chick.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't have classy vibes. Just seems, but I don't know. Again, I will hold my tongue until I really see it, which I don't really want to see because I will never see The Little Mermaid. That looked horrible. The trailer looked horrible. And again, a lot of these films are just like regurgitated trash for Disney to collect, hundreds of years of paychecks onward.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just protecting themselves as a company and as a corporation. I mean, I think it's that simple.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. There's a silver lining in all this. There is, and it's called One Piece. One Piece, because what they're and that's the thing. Netflix is kind of doing something different because they don't have like a patent or whatever or copyright law that they're trying to refresh.
Yeah.
But they have been trying to do live action animes forever, and they have been absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely terrible. And Cowboy Bebop is a great example. And that's,
yeah. I heard about that. Obviously, I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
I've seen a few scenes, and yeah, it was absolutely atrocious.
That looks so bad.
Yeah, and I think one of the main reasons is also the actress for Ed, and it's a good microcosm of how of what to do and how to be better. So like a lot of what's happening right now with Snow White is mirroring what happened on the lead up to Cowboy Bebop. One of the actresses for Cowboy Bebop, and shout out to Critical Drinker because I mean it's an amazing YouTube channel and he talks about this.
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend watching The Cruel Drinker. He's hilarious. And he talks about these very, very well. And I love how he talks about, he's like, anybody that doesn't align with the message. And he like puts up like, like this hilarious thing. And just watch it. You'll see anything about like Snow White or She-Hulk, which is, oh my gosh, just a tragedy.
She-Hulk.
Yes, a terrible tragedy. But
So awful, man.
But if you look at, Snow White is basically, the actress is just hating on all the fans that don't agree with her. She's just like shitting on all of them and also creating a lot of division.
Yeah.
And that happened with Cowboy Bebop, the actress, because people were saying that she's like not dimensional to her and all this stuff. And there's some fair points. She had a couple fair points, but she also didn't in many ways. She just spoke about it. She spoke very, very badly to the fan base, and it was poison to the show. And what happened with the show is that it just tanked. It bombed. It was canceled, like almost immediately. And I think it's because they tried to do a 1-to-1 representation of from the anime to the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So with Ed, because Ed is like this crazy woo woo, and it's a woman. It's like this crazy like wow, kind of like gorillas type character in the show.
And this is Cowboy Bebop.
This is Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
And the actress tried to do that. She tried to be that anime-ish. She tried to be exactly like Ed, 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And it was horrible because you have to be a very special person to even pull that off.
Yeah.
And she also she didn't look like Ed in any way. In my opinion, she looked just terrible. And just everything about it just was wrong. And it was too 1-to-1. It was just poorly 1-to-1.
Yeah.
But you look at One Piece, and it's, it's a masterpiece in my opinion. Masterpiece, One Piece. They didn't try to do 1-to-1. But they still did. They did 1-to-1 on some things. It's like they took.
Yeah.
They broke it down in layers.
They're heavily influenced by the storyboarding.
Well, yes. I mean, but the manga was like there's shots in the movie that the exact
that are
replicas.
1-to-1. Yeah.
1-to-1 of the manga itself, and they're beautiful. But the performances aren't 1-to-1. Like his accents aren't exactly like Luffy's accent is completely different than the Luffy in. But they're similar. So like
that's good because it's like why spend the time on that? Those are the things that don't necessarily matter. I mean that the audience isn't as concerned with is getting those little things exactly like the anime. I mean it's bizarre. It's like a trick. Why who needs that?
No, it was the actor for Luffy. His name Inaki, I think is Inaki or that was weird. Like it's like a combination that you have to put together, and they did it for almost every actor, and I am in awe. I am just in awe because, and it's crazy because like you look at the actor for Luffy, and he like embodies the spirit of Luffy from the manga and the anime. Even the author was shocked at that. He's like, I wrote this character, and this character is alive in front of me right now. He spoke about him like that.
Yeah.
And when you see his vibrancy and how much fun and like this guy is Luffy, like fucking crazy,
right?
But
that's the power of acting, man. Is that they become that.
It is the power of acting, but he's also. I think there are also some people that were born for certain roles.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think he's one of the rare. And I hope he's not like.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to see, right? Because he's a young guy. So yeah, potentially he's just a phenomenal actor, and there's, and because I think with a lot of great actors, there's points in their career where you could have said that about them. Like Daniel Day-Lewis was born to play My Left Foot type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe.
What do you mean?
That's such a different. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a different situation. Like Luffy is based off of a character. I mean, that is
like he
based off,
looks a lot like him. Is that what's so jarring?
That's not jarring. It's just, I mean, it's like there's a spirit, there's a charisma, there's a charm.
Yeah, that's acting.
I know, but I don't know how to explain it. Like
we'll see, right?
Because it's
as
even
his career develops.
His normal thing, like his normal voice, his normal person.
Yeah.
Even kind of, because like, for example, like the actor who did, remember Notorious, not the 40s film, but Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
The actor who played Notorious.
Right.
He quite literally looks like Biggie Smalls.
Right.
I mean, and then he did an amazing representation of Biggie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope that this actor is not kind of, because
hopefully he's not that. He's just a great actor.
He's just, and I mean, he is a great actor, and also the guy who played Notorious is a tremendous actor too. But
what is his? I don't know anything else he's done. I just don't know.
Well, he was a tremendous actor in Notorious, is what I could say.
Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah, he did absolutely. But as an actor, I don't know because I don't know what else he's done.
Yeah.
With this guy, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't seen the series, but yeah, sounds like he did a phenomenal job with this. I'm definitely interested to see what he does with others.
Yeah,
because it'd be cool to, I mean, look at Gary Oldman. I mean, that guy embodies these insane characters, and his range is, you know what I mean? Like, think of his Fifth Element character.
Oh my gosh,
that character is so. How unique is that? I mean, that's so distinct and unique, and like, man. And then in comparison to like Batman,
Oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy range and depth and getting into these characters, which sounds like what that gentleman did with One Piece. Is he got he went so deep into that, which is really cool. I mean, that it's so enjoyable seeing any film.
Well, and a lot of almost all the actors. I mean, I'm all the actors really kind of embodied their actor, but they embodied them in their own way.
Yeah,
they weren't trying to go 1-to-1 in terms of voice, in terms of charisma they took inspiration and they kind of filtered it through their own acting, and then they did it.
Right.
Whereas they were, the actors from Cowboy Bebop, they didn't do that. They kind of like
focused on other things.
Well, they made like a Frankenstein version of trying to be 1-to-1,
right.
And actually exactly like the anime.
Yeah.
Which is, and at a certain point you kind of have to give them credit because they're trying to be like so much like the anime. But I'm like, then what's the point of watching the live action?
Yeah, it's weird.
Might as well just watch the anime.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And yeah, it's awesome. There are a few shows that I definitely shed a few tears in this One Piece, which it was so surprising and shocking. It's also a testament to the author. There were points where, I mean, you hit some beautiful emotional highs and some emotional lows, and it helps you deal so much with understanding who you are as a person and how you can grow and how much it means to find other people that you love and to nurture those you love. I loved the message, and the message of Luffy, is to help others achieve their dream and never get in the way of achieving their dream, and cheering on, people you love and your friends, and you protect your family and your friends at all costs. I think that is just such an extraordinary message. I think that's why it's hitting so well now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like so many people are think so there was a terrible stat where like so many men are lonely right now, especially, and I think that's why a lot of younger men gravitate towards anime because so much of anime is about friendship. Everything from Dragon Ball Z on up. You always got your boys, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing about One Piece is that he's always talking, Luffy's always talking about his friends, his crew, you know? And I think like that is a beautiful message, right? Just find your crew. Don't stop. I mean, Luffy started alone too, you know? That's why I love that message. And, even no matter how old you are, like I'm 32, I'm still finding friends, and this is my first time being alone in my own apartment. And, I've always kind of lived with you and everyone else. And at first it was so jarring, but now it's very pleasant. And now I've made a lot more new friends. I'm very proud of that. And I'm still making more and more. So, I think I kind of like had such an emotional reaction to One Piece because it really kind of emphasizes that the beauty of finding yourself in finding in that journey of also finding friendship and your purpose.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's a message a lot of people can resonate with, and why the show has a it's popular right now despite, it being an anime, and maybe has more of a niche audience. It's still popular and probably continue to be popular because it's a great story with a message that a lot of people just want to hear and probably need to hear right now.
Yeah, man. And one last thing too about it is that there's a part that is so good, where one of his crew members that he thought he lost. It's a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, but I'm not going to say any names, but you'll probably forget it even if I do tell you. But there's a beautiful part where like one of his crewmates, she starts stabbing this tattoo of her old crew, and it's actually very prolific in the manga too. And I love that they did it almost 1-to-1, and I'm like, this is brilliant how they portrayed it. And it's a very dark scene. And the movie, that's why I love it, because it's so colorful. It's not just happy, it's dark. I mean, it's full spectrum of emotions. It's beautiful. But she starts stabbing herself and like cutting up. And in the live action, they did that. She was like stabbing her tattoo, which is, she was used to be a part of this gang, and she hates it. She hates herself. And Luffy like grabs her hand. He like has her drop the knife. At this point, she was already very, she had done a lot of shit to Luffy, like a lot of fucked up shit to him, and really abandoned him in many ways. But he found her, and as she was stabbing, he like stopped, and she's the whole time she's never asked for help, never asked for, and he he's always been one to like he asks everyone, what do you need help with, and how can I help you, and I want to help you achieve this. And she was always kind of like, get away from me, don't. And in that moment, that's why I love this too, because in that moment she was vulnerable to him, and she asked him, please help me. And he like got his hat, and his hat is very special. And in the manga, it's very special for many, many reasons. And he gets his hat and he puts it on her head. He like screams at the top of his lungs, "Of course I will. Of course I will." And I thought that was super cool.
Just hearing like those moments in stories, or living through those moments in like the journey of your heroes on the screen is really such a valuable part of being a human. being able to do that with story and translate those messages, because it just decodes a lot of what you feel inside, but
Exactly.
may not have means to access.
Exactly.
It's what art does.
It does. It helps you decode because you look at yourself and you saw that Luffy, he had suffered a lot. And, but because some people would have been like, no, you get what you deserve. No, this is what you deserve.
Yeah.
And because she had done a lot of fucked up shit to him. And instead, it's like he was waiting. And it's like it's like so excited and it was beyond excitement. It was like a reckoning. It was like Tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's almost like you've acted, she like fully activated him, where it's like, okay, now my friend has asked me for help and I will do whatever I can to help her. And I think that was so powerful because it's not, she wasn't weak in that moment. That was strength. But I think a lot of people and a lot of even some of the stuff with Greta Gerwig, it's all about like self-empowerment over everything. But like, because in that moment, I feel like if Greta was writing that scene, she would have changed it to being like, I can do it myself without Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's fucking lame. Like, nobody can do everything themselves. There's always a team of people to help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing. It was a female asking him, but it had nothing to do with gender.
Right. Yeah.
It was just like, and she was let's get it straight. She's an extremely powerful and intellectual character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that her character art at that moment, that's where she found out, I cannot do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was brilliant. She was so smart. She thought of everything. And it didn't matter. Because it just didn't matter. And she was so distraught. She's literally stabbing herself because she was like, I just want to die. I think that's super important. So you should watch the show.
Yeah, check it out.
It's a great show. It's a great show. It's so beautiful. And it was, to me, it's the first show that has ever integrated the beauty of anime and the beauty of that story with the live action, and kind of just, it's a gem. It's a masterpiece. And I'm sure there's shit with it, but I didn't care. It was so extraordinary, innovative. I just didn't care. The production design, the set, there's so much love poured into that. Unbelievable love. And the author, he had to give final approval.
Great.
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's like
that's awesome.
every single part of that, he gave his stamp of approval on.
Nice.
So I'm like, that's probably why it's so dang good, because there's parts in it where I'm sure some people would have changed, and they had no power to do so. So yeah, I love Luffy. It's great.
Okay, go in there.